Burnout. Let's talk about it. Let's talk about the thing that so many of us don't want to face. If you've had this experience where you've constantly been running, looking for something, trying to get out of the rat race, this is for you because I've been there. I've been in that place where I've been like, just one more client, one more bit of money, and I've never gotten out that way. So I want to describe what burnout is, why people experience it, and how we can go beyond it. Because if you're going into a state of burnout, well, what it means is you're running from something. And people are running from themselves, the fear of the underlying emotion that comes when generally from burnout, it's fear and scarcity because they're afraid that if they will stop, that they won't have money, they won't have resources, they will go broke. And underneath this is that they'll probably end up broke, alone, with no one caring about them. So, what do we want to do about this? Well, the first piece is actually to get familiar with what you are running from. If you're approaching burnout, well, you're running and you need to turn around and actually see what are you running from, and you won't be able to escape it until you do. And what in the essence burnout is your soul screaming at you that you are out of alignment, that something isn't working for you, and you can keep going. You can continue this cycle of burning out, getting losing all your energy, starting back up and going again. That is very possible. You could do that if you wanted to, but it will never solve your solution. It will never serve you truly because you will be in this constant state of feast and famine, of abundance and scarcity, because you haven't integrated the dualistic approach and nature of this work. And what you need to do is take a moment to pause and get very clear with what are you afraid of. And if you're watching this video, this is a great time to actually pause and ask yourself, what are you running from? What is your worst case scenario that you believe if it would happen, you would die, you would lose everything, you would be alone? What is the worst case scenario? For many, if you have a business, this is it would fail. And then go a little bit deeper. What would that mean about you? What would you make that experience of failing mean about you? I know for me, when I did this, this meant that I would end up alone, no one would love me, I would be alone for the rest of my life, and no one would care. That was my story. So I had to go through the process of learning to be loved in my failure, which is why my business failed. And you don't have to do this if you are able to integrate this piece. This is what we're doing. Because if you're not able to meet this within yourself, you're going to go create it in the external world because you're running from fear, and it's not going to stop until you meet your fear. And your soul is going to be like, I know I'm more than this fear, but that fear will control you until you meet it. So either you can meet it internally or you're going to have to meet it externally. And like, I know this is about non-preference because that's what we're really doing when we're integrating non-duality, but this is the paradox of it. We still have a desire, we still want to create. So it's like, yes, I'm doing this so I can have no attachment and I can be in love with this world regardless of what is happening. And there's some part of you that even in that knowing is probably like, yeah, and I'd still rather be wealthy and be building a kick-ass business that is able to create impact in the world. Like, ultimately, you know you desire that even if we're going down the road of non-attachment. And this is the great paradox. So once you get aware of the fear, of what that is, what the underlying meaning is for you, actually take some time and allow yourself to meditate on this. Allow yourself to feel this in the spot in your body. If it's, I'm afraid I'll end up alone, sit and allow yourself to be with that fear of like, I'm afraid I'll end up alone. Speak this out loud and allow yourself to be in this and just acknowledge this fear and acknowledge this feeling of like, oh, I'm really afraid of that. And let it begin to move through your body, allowing yourself to be in this. Because once you do that, you'll begin to accept this and you'll be able to slow down. You're able to stop running, which is the cause of your burnout because you're trying to escape this. But this is the invitation into your own soul, into the deepest parts of yourself. So pause, slow down, and allow yourself to be with this fear. Begin to get to know this fear and begin to meet it and welcome it and acknowledge the part of you that is deeply afraid. If you've been a man, you've probably had a lot of conditioning that you shouldn't be afraid. Just man up, just keep going. If you're a woman, you've probably had a thing of like, don't be too much, don't cry, don't all of this. And so we repress these parts of ourselves that want to come back to us, and our burnout is an invitation back into ourselves. So actually pause and allow yourself to be in this. Get to know this part of yourself that is trying to run away, that wants to escape, wants to avoid this emotion that is sitting beneath the burnout. And just begin to invite it in. Welcome it home, saying, I see you. You're here. You're allowed to be here. And the more you are able to do this, the more you are able to love this fear of failure, this fear of not having what you desire, of being left alone, of all of this, and you just begin to welcome this home. You'll realize you don't need to run anymore. You don't need to run from yourself. You don't need to be creating to be worth anything. You can actually create a sense of self that goes beyond anything outside of you. Because ultimately this is what it is. You are wanting to create, you're wanting to build because you believe that gives you validation and worth. Because you haven't healed this part of you that is crying out for love. That is saying, hey, love me. And it's screaming in the way of, I feel low energy. I don't want to keep going. I'm done. I'm tired. I'm sick of it all. That's the voice. And it's inviting you to come home, being like, okay, yeah, I am tired. I don't want to do this anymore. I don't want to run anymore. And when you start to acknowledge this, when you start to be with this, you'll begin to build a sense of self that goes outside the exterior, outside of anything you're creating, anything you're building, and allowing you to come home. And this is what you want, because in this you will build a solid foundation of who you are. You will recognize that you are more than anything outside of yourself, that you don't need any of this. You don't need the business, you don't need any of that, you don't need the money, you don't need the relationship to recognize your sense of wholeness that comes from within you. And when you're able to feel that, be with that, well, you'll stop running. And this is the beauty. This is the implosion. This is the allowing the fear to move through you and seeing the other side of this. June is one of my favorite books, and they have an itery against fear, and it says fear is a mind killer. It's the slow death that kills the mind. I will allow the fear to move through me, pass through me, and on the other side of that I shall see the path of fear, and I shall know that is the way. And this is what it means. It means allowing fear to move through the body, allowing it not to consume, not to control. And then on the other side, you are able to see a clear path that will show you where you need to go. And so if you can move this current of fear, you'll realize no longer do you have to run, because when you're in fear, you're in scarcity, which is a survival level of consciousness, which has a limited awareness of possibility. Because if you think of survival level consciousness, you are in a box. You are in this box that says, I just need to survive. This is the primal part of ourselves that is just looking to get the next meal so it can survive. Just one more meal, the next kill, the next thing. It's like only thinking of the next thing. But it doesn't open the stage for possibility, for what is outside of that box of like, okay, I don't want to just make the next meal. I want to make the next 10. I want to plan for the future. I want to build something that will then allow me to sustain. I want to see possible income sources that I haven't thought of before. I want to have offers. Like, this is where it gets interesting, because when you meet the fear, your awareness is like, oh, I'm already free. I don't just need to focus on the next meal. I can focus on creating something. I can focus on building something. I can focus on different ways that if I was in survival, because survival is a limited level of consciousness, you'll begin to see more possibility, more awareness of what you could truly go after. And this is when you can be like, oh, fear does not control me. And ultimately, this is what will stop you from burning out. Because when you're in the possibility, a possibility level of consciousness, you are not running. You're creating from desire. You're like, what would happen if I did this? Can I explore this? Can I do this? There's a lot of creative possibility, and that brings energy into your being. It allows you to expand, explore, see different things. And that is really powerful. So allow yourself to go beyond the fear, meet the fear, and the pathway is through. When you can be with this fear, you can alchemize it and transmute it to open you to the possibilities. This is the work I love to do, because we have lived in so many conditions of fear, of limitation, that say, I can't do this, that I can't go after what I want. But the way is through. So allow yourself to meet the fear, and then you'll see the possibility. Take care. Enjoy.